They'll be calling you a radical. And before I go on this rant about them changing the labels on the nuclear waste is no different than raising the legal limits, and it's a dog and pony show. It's a smoke screen, just like a nuclear disaster. That scale goes from 1 to 7. Really? Maximum 7, that's malice from inception. The media, who committed incredible malice, which has been proven over and over now, putting up fake pictures, these incredible crimes against humanity. As I warned so much of the media right to them, I've been interviewed by them all, but I refused to panty paint. I refused to softball, so thus I warned them all. You're going to be the face. This is incredible malice, and you're going to be the face of the greatest crime against humanity in history. And by the way, them relabeling in Japan is not just, oh, it'll be able to move it in. No. That means here. Why do you think I was in Vienna as that decision is being made? They're trying to bring it here to Utah, the Western, all over these nuclear whip, the repository and the they'll get it everywhere. So, but anyway, I'm going to read this. This is incredibly emotional. I don't know if it's been out there, and I just had never seen it. And if this doesn't wake everybody in the world up, this is the great equalizer. Fukushima is the great equalizer. Cancer is the great equalizer of the environment. And this is Steve Jobs' last words. Boy, does this go a long way. Wow, and Steve Jobs was a fucking prick in so many ways, and talk to anybody in the interview. What's his name that used to interview him all the time? I'm trying to think of his name, that we used to be with CNN, FN, and God, I can't think of his name. But, he was an asshole to every fucking one. Amazing, and he got sucked into the so-called American dream, and even when you get the American dream, this corporate board members, media members, the U.S. Navy, brass, people with inside the Department of Energy at Livermore, Barack Obama. Especially Barack Obama. His mother was a downwinder. Senators, Congress personnel, corporate board members. Listen to this. This is for you. This is for you. And I'll tell you what, when I first read it, got sent to me today, it made me cry. And literally, very hardcore emotional. This is Steve Jobs as he sucked up this big around. Now remember, I want people to very much remember, I've been almost all the way where he was. When I went into the bone marrow transplant at LDS, my body was being ravished so fast. I went from 170 to 130 pounds in 3 weeks. You could see it online. Just look how skinny. That fast. And I shriveled away in there. I went away, and one of my doctors was one of Steve's doctors. Steve Jobs had multiple, and my point is, you're talking the best care in the world. Bar none. One of the richest people on the face of the earth. These are his last words. He's this big around, shriveled up. Very emotional. The last words of Steve Jobs. I have come to the pinnacle of success in business. In the eyes of others, my life has been the symbol of success. However, apart from work, I have little joy. Finally, my wealth is simply a fact to which I have accomplished. Excuse me. Let's start this over. I want to get this exactly right. The last words of Steve Jobs. I have come to the pinnacle of success in business. In the eyes of others, my life has become the symbol of success. However, apart from my work, I have little joy. Finally, my wealth is simply a fact to which I am accustomed. At this time, lying in the hospital bed and remembering all my life, I realized that all my accolades and riches of which I was once so proud have become insignificant with my imminent death. In the dark, when I look at green lights of the equipment for artificial respiration and feel the buzz of their medical sounds, I can feel the breath of my approaching death looming over me. Only now I understand that once you accumulate enough money for the rest of your life, you have to pursue objectives that are not related to wealth. It should be something more important. For examples, stories of love, art, dreams of my childhood. No. Stop pursuing wealth. It can only make a person into a twisted being just like me. God has made us one way we can feel the love in the heart of each of us, and not illusions by fame or money. Like I made in my life, I cannot take them with me. Can only take with me the memories that were strengthened by love. This is the true wealth that will follow you, will accompany you. He will give you strength and light to go ahead. Love can travel thousands of miles, so life has no limits. Move to where you want to go. Strive to reach the goals you want to achieve. Everything in your heart and in your hands. What is the world's most expensive bed? The hospital bed. If you have money, you can hire someone to drive your car, but you cannot hire someone to take your illness that is killing you. Material things lost can be found, but one thing can never find when you lose: life. Whatever stage of life, where we are right now, at the end, we'll have to face the day when the curtain falls. Please treasure your family, love your spouse, love your friends, treat them well, and stay friendly with your neighbors. Deathbed repentance on Balco. Reality, fucking hardcore. It's fucking hardcore as it gets. I'm telling you, especially as young males in America, what do? Chase girls and money our whole life, I was different in some way, but I was still sexually motivated by girls and different things, but I had this tie to the environment. But I think Steve Jobs was a brilliant, I mean, it's unarguable, a fucking genius. Not just in mental capacity, in doing. I think he had a predisposition to cancer, and I think he knew it playing in Hewlett-Packard's garage. The first guy that he ever worked for is from right here. The guy that started Atari, he wrote about him when Steve Jobs was 18 years old. He says that he had to put Steve Jobs work at night because he was that big of a fucking prick. I want to say this, and I would hope one day something that I did would get to President Obama, to Barack Obama. I find Barack Obama to be very similar to Steve Jobs. They had the exact same types of mother. You grew up, these brilliant women who obviously had father issues. Mom hooked up with the honor student, brilliant honor student who really just used the mother for sex. That's all they did. Barack Obama's father was a polygamist. You do know that. His mother didn't know that. Yeah, a polygamist, for real. The other wife knew. He was a fucking piece of shit, Barack Obama's father. So was fucking Steve Jobs' father, a piece of fucking shit. Not my words, Steve Jobs' fucking words. You know the story about Steve Jobs' sister. She's the brilliant writer. I mean, it's amazing. She went and found Steve Jobs. I was reading Isaacson's fucking piece of shit, filthy fucking book when I got sick. By the way, that book pisses me off. He goes off in this fucking rant in that book. I mean, there's some good elements about it. I was watching the interview with Isaacson when I got diagnosed and was told by her that I had probably 2 months to live on a Friday night in the emergency room at McQuack-D. Isaacson went on interview after interview after interview and tried to say this bullshit that Jobs, if he would have just had this surgery, that's such fucking nonsense. Bullshit. Pancreatic cancer? You think there's the American flaw. There's the American flaw. You think there's a cure for pancreatic cancer? You're a fucking moron if you think that. You know what the survival rate for that disease is? How long did Steve Jobs live with it? He made a lot of time. Did he change his life towards it? Oh yeah. He reinvented his relationship with his own daughter, which he abandoned his own daughter, just like the abuse becomes the abuser. So his daughter goes and says, I'm going to track down our real father. She goes and she finds him. I think he's still there. He's a piece of dog shit in Sacramento. In a lot of ways, very similar to, believe it or not, John Lennon. Yeah, I said that. Ask Jillian. Jillian said when John Lennon was murdered, he says, I didn't know whether to jump up for joy or cry. No, I shouldn't compare. I mean, Lennon was 10,000 times the man Barack Obama's father ever fucking dreamed of being. Or then, but that ain't saying much. She goes and finds him. He's got a coffee shop in Sacramento. She talks to him, says, hey. And he says, God, I wish I would have met you and you would have came to me when I was really somebody. Isn't that the flaw of the immigrant? The American fairy tale? When I was somebody. You were never nobody, motherfucker. I had a restaurant in the Valley. Every Friday, Steve Jobs used to come into my restaurant. We would talk for hours. You should go back and tell Steve, hey, I found our father. Wait till you hear this story. Told him the story. Steve says, oh my God, I remember that fucking dude. I used to like that dude. We used to talk whatever, you know. And Steve Jobs didn't like anybody. Well, do you want to connect with me? No, fuck him. Steve did the same thing to his own daughter. Barack Obama and Steve Jobs knew each other. Barack Obama called Steve Jobs to the White House right after he's elected. And this is how another reason I know that Barack Obama's been had. Nuclear Street. He gives an interview in 2008 in Illinois on the stump, and a woman, one of the great activists of the anti-nuclear community, asked him the tough question, what about Hanford? He didn't know what Hanford was. Now remember, this is a guy that's propped up by the nuclear industry. He was green as fucking grass. So he tells Steve Jobs, what about bringing the jobs back to the United States? What about tariffs? You know Steve Jobs told, and he didn't even call him President Obama, you know. I don't know that I would right now either, but no, Barack. The fucking jobs left and they're never coming back. And you know my line, the only thing never coming back is Steve fucking Chinese Jobs. This goes a long ways with me. And I'll say this, as big as prick as Steve Jobs was and what he did to America, what he did, he was a fucking genius. He used Gretzky's line, and he never invented anything, including his own lines. He used to steal all his own fucking lines. But, visionary, oh yeah. I mean, you think about the story of Apple going bankrupt, buying back the own fucking thing. When my dad died, I'll never forget it. My dad was so fucking brilliant. You know, I remember his stock portfolio back then. It got sold out a long time ago. You know, when my father died, he had freaking a few thousand shares of Apple stock. You know, but that's back before the jobs were sent to China. Way back. Jobs, you know, Pixar saved him, went all in, had to buy his own company back. You know, told what's his name, what are you going to do, sell sugar water? It's amazing. I think it's the iconic story of our time. I think it's so perfectly correlated to who we are and what we are. This fucking John Steinbeck, we simply went from the fucking same area. Steinbeck was a fucking genius. Fuck that dude. I mean, that dude got it. We simply went from the we to the I. Kevin Blanch, we simply went from the we to the I to the capital we to the I. It's such an iconic fucking... Steve Jobs is the icon. Steve Jobs is America. That's Pucci, the United States of America. He really is. I mean, I think he's the most iconic figure clear back to John Lennon. I think John Lennon, the iconic figure. Then from 1980 to present, there's no doubt. Steve Chinese Jobs. You know, and I'll say this, biggest prick of the day. I was a semiconductor analyst for a while in the 80s. Remember Connexton? I was the analyst on that fucking stock. Wow, what a fucking crazy time that was. When I was in the hospital room fucking dying as a red tent in there, I wasn't having dreams about girls or fucking money. I mean, I can relate so much to the statement. But, you know, I wasn't like that even before. But, I wasn't a fucking billionaire either. I mean, who knows how any of us would fucking act, but how does this not wake Jamie Dimon up, Lloyd Blankfien up? I mean, these political process, these fucking hairsprayed fuckers that are trying to get in the fucking club. How does the fucking Fukushima, the greatest ecological catastrophe in fucking, and granted, he died before Fukushima. You know, he got cancer and everything, but that's, my point is, it's piling on, it's bioaccumulating. We're just getting worse, and we know the fucking incident of cancer is fucking gone fucking ballistic post-Fukushima. We know the death of the ocean and the people that fucking covered up. You fucking media desk? I mean, Sanjay Gupta practicing fucking neurosurgeon, you know the malice you committed on fucking March 26, 2011 on Sanjay Gupta MD. Fucking, well, watch your own transcript. Look, I know what you did, and I saw what you did, all of you. I saw what you did, and I know who you are. I've documented, I know every one of you by name. IEAE, You know, the fucking whole fucking, I mean, the news desk that fucking made the decision to cover for the nuclear cartel, fake fucking pictures of 4 over, you fucking know. As I've told us, when they've interviewed me, I says, look, and this is my line I used to them all. Look, when this fucking people find out this fucking malice and this lie and this cover up, because you can't cover up, you're so used to covering things up that you can sweep it on the table till they come up with a fix, whatever, and you can manipulate it, but not this time. Not with this. When people find out, they don't know who these corporate board members are. They don't know who the IAEA is. They don't know who the corporate board members of Westinghouse or General Electric or Toshiba. They don't know them personally. But they know your face. They know who reported this. And you sit there and read it. It doesn't matter if you're reading off the fucking top. And Coulter fucking, it's good for you, that dude. I mean, all these fucking people. Livis Vargas went over there. Look at those fake pictures they put up when we know. It was our group that fucking exposed that ABC was using footage saying it was number 4 at Fukushima. Fucking, our group's the one that dug out and exposed that that was footage from Hanford. We have the proof. All of it. These pretty fucking pictures they put up. Fucking the malice that was committed all over the fucking place. I mean, if this doesn't fucking move you, and I'll say this about Steve Jobs. He's one of us. He's in my club. You know, I say. For the angels, they watch our... I'm the people that were fucking mass murdered by the nuclear cartel. You know, I can sit and rattle them off. All our fucking group that died. I'm the last fucking one alive. I mean, so aggressive in our fucking... You know, I fight for them. Because they were fucking killed. They're dead. Even Steve Jobs. His life shouldn't have been fucking mowed down. Even as big as prick as he was, and he fucked America. Do not kid yourself. Apple takes all the advantage of the American taxpayer. Roads, schools, universities, supplements, you know, to fucking get their employees. You know, the average Apple employee, especially in the brass who has an MBA from Stanford, Harvard, you know how much, I mean, they were fucking given fucking scholarships, they were given fellowships, they were going to fucking public schools. Even the private schools we know are fucking 80% funded by the American taxpayer. The roads you get to fucking work on. You know, everything that the American taxpayer fucking supports. Yet they don't give anything fucking back. They park the richest company in the history of mankind, Apple. Apple. You go all the way back my YouTube site, and I was doing Apple videos all the way up. All the way up, I've tracked. I mean, I remember asking me, what is it with Apple? I says, it's the iconic thing. Remember when I did the video where I split the Apple in pieces long before they ever fucking split? Remember I told you it was going in the Dow? Remember I told you, know... Wow. It's the fucking story. Now think about the logo. Jobs picked that. I mean, read some of these fucking lines in here. No, stop pursuing wealth. It can only make a person into a twisted being, just like me. I'll never forget it when I was a young guy in college. And we had this professor. This is in the early days of the AIDS in LA. And that's where he worked there and taught. And at the same time, simultaneously. And he would come into our class. You know, he'd go back and forth, and he'd say, he would sit with so many people. This guy, his last name was James. What a brilliant professor he was. That's back when the state of California, state of Utah, both used to, in the university, they used to require that you took a health class. Which I'm a big believer that all students should have to take, no matter, should be able to early jump these classes through high school. It just ruins you because, I mean, they're important. And that class was powerful. And he says, he was documenting the death. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of people. And he would document their death, and he would say, I know one thing. And he talked about this long before, this. This when Jobs was just a young guy too. So was I. He says, people that chase money, don't fucking, these different things, and he says they die horribly like this. And he says, then I see other people, and even they're younger, they die so confidently and so quietly and so calmly. But, I don't know, I've never been around a leukemia victim who died fucking calmly. I mean, Paul was probably the strongest one. He calmed me down while he was dying, but still a fucking nightmare way to go. Steve Jobs got so fucking down to nothing, so fucking skinny. I've got pictures on my Facebook because when he made the statement, wow. I really thought Fukushima would be the fucking wake-up call. Would be the. I really did. Part of me was actually happy. Now I know for a fact that the Navy has a mitigation fucking. They have one ship that's just nothing but nuclear meltdown mitigation. It was sent in. It was reported by CNN. Suzanne Malveaux, actually, look it up. She reported it. I know they wanted it in. I know that fucking Obama was green as grass. I know that Holder and fucking Berkeley and this billion-dollar fucking apparatus overrode inside the Situation Room. Gregory Jacko's a fucking, fuck him too. Fuck all those guys. You're done. Your legacy for fucking ever. That fucking, you ain't dancing out of this. Barack Obama covered up Fukushima. He made the fucking choice. The buck stops with him. He stood on the fucking White House fucking lawn and lied. Him and Chow was flying out to South America. He fucking knew. They crashed fucking Radnet. We were going crazy. I have fucking data that's been taken down that I was so over this in the early days that I reported it. I have it. They were picking up fucking Fukushima in Sacramento within 12 fucking hours. And I reported. Thank God I reported. I reported a lot of this, and because it took them a while to circle the wagons and pull stuff down. Just like Gupta's fucking bullshit. CNN took it down. You still can't find the fucking video footage. They took all that down. But I fucking screamed and yelled on this YouTube camera hundreds of times. Finally, someone inside CNN got it to me. I read it and went back up. I have fucking data from Berkeley that I fucking read, the KLK study. This is a giant cover-up. Well, you can't cover it up. And the Pacific genocide's happening. And the American populace, they know. The world pop, they just can't have the conversation because they're baby bombers. They never fucking grew up. Just like cancer. They can't have the conversation about cancer. I'm in the fucking JFK airport, the fucking lead writer for the Columbia Review, and fucking one of the New Yorkers come up and talk to me. They're talking to me, they're fucking picking my brain, whatever, Kevin Blanch, I start going along about my cancer, and this has happened to me multiple interviews, which I've done interviews with every fucking media you can fucking dream of. But you know me, I don't fuck Chris Busby and say, oh, it's going to dilute. I'm not Arnie Gundershield looking for the next fucking paycheck. I'm not fucking playing. I tell it how it fucking is. And I don't even say fuck. I don't even think, I just tell it how it is. He says, oh, you're going to have to stop, Kevin. I can't handle this part of your story about the cancer. I can't go there. Like little fucking kids. Can't have a conversation about your own. You're all going to fucking die. We're all going to die. Job says it here over and over and over. Deathbed repentance. Yeah, a long time. And that's the evil about leukemia. You don't just die. You get to think about it. You get to brew on it. And so all you fucking rats, I'm sure Jamie Dimon and fucking Lloyd Blankfield, this is all going through. And what a torture fucking death. What a fucking torturous way to go. Not me. So, wow. In Japan, they're changing the label on the waste so they can bring it into the low-level fucking dump sites in the United States. That's where they'll end up. They'll come here. Just like when the Bhopal fucking mass murderer was fucking convicted in all the courts all over the fucking world. He was convicted. Who protected him? Only one place in the world will protect him. North Korea? China? Oh no. United States. Manhattan. And by the way, I'll be in New York I think soon. I'm going to organize a protest against the fucking worst, fucking most dangerous nuclear reactor besides San Onofre, which we got shut down, but it doesn't matter because these fucking are just going to form another debate side and have a fucking another, rob some more money. Another fucking, oh hi, stop that. They'll never do anything. That fucking waste until we get an earthquake and it spills all over. We evacuate fucking, hundreds of millions of people. You don't think that's fucking real? You know nothing about Fukushima. One last thing. Indian Point, that piece of shit. One last thing. There's been plenty of videos now shot inside Japan, including this Tim Pool did a beautiful video. Went in there. I've reported over and over there are literally hundreds of thousands of workers, above ground and below ground. There's so many fucking workers. And when I go up that at least 8,000 of them are dead, think about the number. It's probably very low. Because they've just covered it up. Why do you think they don't talk? Look at the videos he shot. He says every store you go into, the only people you see are just in suits by the thousands. And I've seen videos when I was in Austria. I've seen videos of several people that have been inside there now. Big broad videos that are not just, ABC, NBC propaganda bullshit. I saw them. They're online, some of them. Look at all those fucking workers. You don't think radiation fucking kills you? And these guys that are going... Wow. Wow. So fucking emotional. Knowing what you'd have to do. Wow. That's the most powerful thing I've read in a long, long fucking time. I've hypothesized and said this over and over and over and over that, you know, wow. All your money can another minute buy. By the way, that's a Native American poem. Dust in the Wind, Kansas Stove Batter. Wow. Says it all. Stand tuned.